Hey everyone. Can you guys see me, hear me? I don't know. There we go. How's everybody doing? Thank you guys so much for joining today's Gab with Garima. This is actually the first one we're doing in our new Orlando office. We moved into an Orlando office last week, actually. So we're super excited. If you're in the area, please stop by, come see us. We have almost most of our team actually is here. So we have support, we have sales, and we have quite a few other folks and functions here. So really, really excited about that. So we appreciate all of you joining today. We are talking about the good, the bad, and the ethical when it comes to AI. And this word AI, or this acronym AI, has become such a buzzword. You can't look at CNN, you can't open Wall Street Journal, you can't do anything without hearing someone talk about AI and its use, and is it ethical, and should we be using it, and should we, there's just so many issues and thoughts around it. So I thought we would talk a little bit about AI today and what it means, and again, my opinions on the good, the bad, and the ethical. So to get started, first of all, let's talk about what artificial intelligence really means. So artificial intelligence is obviously intelligence that is not coming from a human, where you're teaching some kind of machine or software to be thinking on our behalf. And this is not a new term. Like, the term was actually coined back in the 1950s. 1956 was the first time that the term artificial intelligence was used. So this is not new. It's been around for quite a while, and the iterations have changed as we've evolved over time. So the first real use case that a lot of people go to is in machine learning. There was a computer called Deep Blue, and Deep Blue was a supercomputer that they started development on in 1989. So again, quite a few years ago. And in 1996, they actually had Deep Blue take on a championship chess player. And they wanted to see whether or not this computer could beat this chess player. And in 1996, the computer lost, and the computer lost 4-2. In 1997, the computer actually played the chess player again, and in 1997, the computer won. And that was one of the first signs that machines can sometimes be smarter, or be taught to be smarter than individuals or than humans, and that becomes a little bit scary. So if you think about the dates, right? I said 1950s, this first idea of AI. 1980s, they start building a supercomputer. 1990s, that supercomputer is now taking on a chess player and winning a chess match. And fast forward all the way to today in 2023, and I use ChatGPT on a day-to-day basis all the time. It is my go-to for everything from writing a nice poem to just asking a question. So the evolution of AI and the speed at which it's growing is something we're definitely going to be addressing today as we go along. So the next thing I want to talk about is, let's talk about the good first. So being in tech, right? I think technology is great, obviously. And I think that the fact that we're able to speed up this growth around technology is always the case. So if you've heard of Moore's Law says that in every 2 years, this technology will double. So that being said, in 10 years, it would be 5 times where we are today. So 500% of where we are today. And so that idea of Moore's Law, again, can be scary. And we'll talk about ethical, and we'll talk about bad in a while. But the good part about that is technology. Whether I look at Villargini and what we do, or if I look at any other technology and the speed at which it grows, it's fantastic. And AI helps us with so much. Like, I love that it tells me, I love that my computer or that my phone tells me what I want to buy, and Instagram pops up information to me on a day-to-day basis. It's definitely clickbait. I've definitely bought a lot of things I don't need because of this artificial intelligence, but it is smart enough to know when I have a flight. I get in my car, my phone says, oh, it's 15 minutes to drive to this place, because it knows that I generally drive there in the mornings on Wednesday, or so on and so forth. So there's a lot of great uses of AI. Number one, it is able to automate super repetitive tasks. So anything that someone is doing that's just the same thing over and over again, and therefore we can increase efficiency because you don't need a human putting a widget on something over and over again. We think about machines, we think about the Industrial Revolution, the same type of thing happened. Now this is happening with even more automation, and really using artificial intelligence to do that. Decision making, it can help process and analyze the pros and cons of decisions by using a huge amount of data sets. So when we need to go make a decision as a human and we need to go look at the pros and cons, and we might Google something or ask a friend or do all of that, the amount of data that AI has, they can take all of that, synthesize it very quickly, and help provide insights on how decisions can be made. Another major industry that's affecting is healthcare. So, assisting with medical diagnoses, drug discoveries, personalized treatment plans. There's a lot there that's happening in the medical professional, which definitely crosses some of that ethical lines, but there's a lot that's happening that makes things a lot simpler and also reduces human error. Also, the safety, right? So we think about the autonomous vehicles, we think about the self-driving cars. Um, if someone couldn't fall asleep at the wheel, if someone wasn't drunk, if we knew that they weren't impaired in any other way, what would happen to our streets? What would happen to traffic? Those are some of the good things, right? And again, just the efficiency that it's able to provide on a day-to-day basis. Now let's talk about the bad. I think what people get scared of often is, what about my job? Like, will AI be me? Well, do I need to exist anymore? Or am I completely obsolete because now AI can do my job? Um, in every evolution, in every way that technology expands, again, I talked about the industrial revolution. Think about how many jobs were displaced then. And it's not that people won't find work, but there may be different ways for people to use their skills better. I do not believe that AI is going to replace a human. And we'll talk a little bit about that in a second. But with every new piece of major evolving technology, there's always this fear there'll be job displacement. And usually it's just that people are able to be more efficient with their time and able to work on the things that do require human logic and reasoning to do that. Another thing we talk about is bias and discrimination. AI is only as smart as what you teach it. So if the only people using artificial intelligence and feeding this engine with information all look the same, act the same, work in the same industries, it's only going to be the bias is going to be based on all of us as users. So I encourage more inputs. I encourage people to really start utilizing and teaching AI. But I guess we'll see kind of how that happens, but it really should remove prejudice because again, it'll only have prejudice the people. So someone has a thought, if intelligence becomes artificial in such a scenario, what is the use of human intelligence, mind of humans? Would a human remain a race? Okay, so this is a great question. This is a big question that we get around AI, that will will we be in a Skynet or Matrix type environment where all of a sudden humans become completely unnecessary? I don't foresee that happening. I truly don't. And I could be completely wrong here, but I don't foresee that happening because the most important thing about AI when we talk about the bad is that AI is not infallible. If people look at AI, or if companies or businesses or humans look at AI as just another person on your team, I think that understanding that it's not infallible means that human logic, that human reasoning, what we bring to the table is completely different than what AI can produce. It can give you some inputs, it can give you some ideas, but the way that it actually makes the decision, I think, will always fall to the human, at least for now. I don't foresee us getting into Skynet. But going back to Moore's Law, there's been a lot of controversy of, does it actually exist? Or have we hit the point of evolution and technology that we cannot grow at the rate of 200% every 2 years? I think that remains to be seen. But again, if we look at the rate of technology advancements, it may just go into another field. So right now, AI is the hot topic. A few years ago, it was all around, what we were doing in terms of cloud computing. And then you think about telecommunications and how that's changed as well. Again, continues to grow, continues to evolve. Someone said, what are the top 3 AI apps that you recommend most? Look, I like everything from OpenAI. I love ChatGPT and kind of all of the versions of ChatGPT, from Copymatic to there's a few others, but ChatGPT is absolutely my go-to. It's a linked page on my taskbar. It's something I use probably daily. And sometimes it's just validation of things that I'm already thinking of. Greg, AI will never replace you, Greg, but it'll replace all finance analysts. It's possible that AI can help with coming up with the algorithms in the back end and why something exists. But for example, and my friend Greg is one of the best financial analysts and does so much more than that in the industry. So if you don't know that, you should also be working with Greg. But, you know, one thing to say about that is that the decision making that Greg's able to bring, well, okay, I can look at this data, but how come this is happening? Why does this vintage look like this? Have we looked at these various inputs? Have we thought about these things? Have we thought through what these decisions what will happen and what will the impact of these decisions will be in a year or 2 or 3 years time? That's something I don't believe, at least not at this point, AI will ever be able to replace. So I don't think that that'll happen. But just the basic financial analysis and the basic of accounting and some of bookkeeping, I absolutely think AI can do that. And I think any of those repetitive tasks that don't require logic will go to AI. Some of the ethical dilemmas though around AI, right? Like using it, like what about prejudice? What about plagiarism, right? Like that becomes like, is there any room or place for unique thought? I know that schools are dealing with this often around what happens if a student uses an essay that was written by ChatGPT. And now there are actually AI tools that are checking for plagiarism in documentation that's being sent. So I think that that's a very interesting dilemma. I'd love to hear what you guys think around plagiarism and ethical use of AI in that way. But I think that that'll also force education to be more around soft skills like public speaking and looking people in the eye and um, collaboration and how to handle conflict and conflict resolution. I think that we will start seeing education systems move towards those types of soft skills because so many of the hard skills and the basics of geometry, algebra, all of that, although it's important for people to learn, will be handled so primarily by AI, and people can obviously get the answers very quickly on their phones if a child has their phone or a teenager, high schooler, college kid. The other thing is back to this idea of prejudice. So when we talk around prejudice in AI, it's going to exist, but prejudice exists in every human. No matter how much we say that there is no prejudice or bias, we are an amalgamation of every decision and every thought and every piece of our environment. So we come into every conversation with our own baggage. It just happens. It is the way that it is human nature. So two people, it's why we say that someone looks at glass half full and glass half full and someone else looks at it glass half empty. Prejudice is a natural occurrence in literally every single thing we do. And because it is humans that are feeding AI, that prejudice is going to become inherent in that AI as well. So I think being aware of that and monitoring it and creating the right systems to ensure that bias is taken out of decision making, especially when it comes to things like financial decisions, healthcare decisions, and taking some of that prejudice out by really ensuring that the data that is fed into the artificial intelligence is holistic and it includes and encompasses so many different factors and so many different viewpoints. I think that's one of the ways that we'll be able to solve that. Also giving more access, like making AI easier to use to a broader spectrum, because right now it is still something that not every single person uses. There are income changes. There is kind of a wage gap of who is using AI. There's also sectors that are using it more than others, and there's specific specialties or functions within those companies that are using it. And that will just continue to build this prejudice and bias because it's the same type of people doing it over and over again, feeding the machine the same way. So I don't know if anybody has any thoughts or questions. I'd love to take any thoughts or questions that you may have. But at the end of the day, my big thoughts on this are I think AI isn't going anywhere. It's here to stay. It's just like every other piece of technology. iPhones aren't going anywhere. They're just getting stronger and smarter every day. Computers aren't going anywhere. Again, they're getting stronger and smarter every day. AI fits within that. And the quicker we embrace it and learn to utilize it for good, the better we will all be. There will always be ethical issues. There will always be things that can happen, whether it's security risk or fraud or bias or anything else. But the faster we all embrace it and start using it the right way, the better I think that we will all be as a humankind, because again, it's just not going anywhere. And if we believe that Moore's law is even semi-accurate, then in the year 33, so 2033, we can expect AI or the entire technology stack that we have to be 5 times smarter and better than what it is today. And that is a pretty scary thought, but it doesn't seem like that's changing anytime soon. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and I really appreciate you guys all joining, and talk to y'all soon. Thanks. Bye.